we're talking about breastfeeding and the 5 biggest misconceptions that moms have when trying to feed their newborn. Hey guys, so I'm going to talk to you about the 5 biggest misconceptions that new moms have when trying to feed their newborn babies. The books about breastfeeding and how to breastfeed effectively are thick. So we're just going to talk about 5 really basic things. And the way that I chose the things to talk about are that these are the things that I find myself explaining over and over and over to almost every new mom that is trying to breastfeed her baby for the first time. Disclaimer, I'm not a lactation consultant. I don't do breastfeeding research. So I'm not a breastfeeding expert. I am a BSN RN on a postpartum unit at a baby-friendly hospital. So I spend a lot of my time at work helping people to breastfeed. I'm going to talk to you really not the way that I talk to my patients, but the way I talk to my friends, which is really upfront and straightforward about things that I think are actually really going to be helpful to them. And this is in no way the end-all be-all of breastfeeding, and there is an exception for every single thing I'm going to say. But I think that if women knew these things before coming to the hospital, it would just make everything go a lot easier. And to help me, I have this creepy baby with a Santa hat on, wearing this creepy mouse onesie. It was the cheapest 20-inch baby doll they had on Amazon. So here we go. We're gonna name him Liam because basically every single person names their baby Liam this decade. And again, these are specific for the first few days of life. Things that I think are really helpful to know when you're just barely getting started. Because the first few days of life is such an important time for establishing, for baby to establish a good latch and for your body to establish a good supply. Misconception number 1, and I addressed this with probably about 70% of my patients who are trying to breastfeed, whether or not they've had a child before, and that is that you don't have enough milk. Now, there are 2 things that I think go into this misconception. One is that you think baby needs to eat more than they actually need. And number 2, you are underestimating the amount of colostrum you're actually making. So babies' bellies in the first day of life are like the size of a marble. They're tiny. They're not big at all. And colostrum is so rich in nutrients and calories. They don't need very much to be fed. And what I see moms do all the time is this. They're like, I don't have any milk. And then they take their nipple and they go like this on their nipple and they go, look, nothing's coming out. And they're right. When you're just squeezing your nipples, nothing comes out. It will look like there is nothing there. And your breast probably won't feel terribly different in that first, few days of life. But there's something there. It's just about knowing how to get it out. Babies are really good at getting that colostrum out. And also, we're able to get that out ourselves with our hands through something called manual expression, which we'll try to link to. But so often I'll have a patient say, nothing is there. And then I say, hey, is it okay if I touch you? Is it okay if I try? And then I go and do a few good form manual expressions, and it just like pours out. Number 1, remember, you probably have everything that your baby needs, even if it doesn't seem like it. Misconception number 2, babies latch themselves. That is not true. Babies need help. Now, babies are kind of amazing in their ability to eat. The suck, swallow, breathe pattern that they have to have takes a lot of coordination that they don't really have anywhere else in their body. If you think about babies aren't really grabbing, they're not able to crawl, they don't have really good control over any of their movement except their ability to suck, swallow, and breathe, and do that for, maybe an hour at a time sometimes. So babies are pretty good at eating. What they're not very good at is latching and doing that initial latch. And the reason for that is because their head has to be in the right position next to your breast, and their heads are floppy, right? Floppy, doppy. By the way, don't do this on a real baby. So what that means is that babies really need our help in getting a good latch and then often maintaining that good latch also. So we know that when a baby first latches on, they need to have a nice big open mouth, and that's going to help encourage effective milk transfer so that your baby is not just sucking on your breast, but your baby is actually being fed. What I see moms do is they're getting ready to latch their baby, you know, and they're, you know, doing manual expression, they're waking their baby up, they're rubbing their baby's cheek, you know, all these things we do, tickling his nose. And then baby has a big mouth and they go, hey, baby's got a big mouth. I should try to latch my baby now. And then they slowly bring their baby in and kind of gently put their nipple in. And then baby closes their mouth just in time to kind of catch the very tip of their nipple. But sucking on that very tip of the nipple, well, yeah, they're on you and they're sucking and maybe they're soothing, but it's not going to transfer milk very well. So your baby's not going to be fed very well. So we need to make sure that when baby gives us that nice big mouth, we need to be a little bit aggressive in taking advantage of that, so that by the time baby gets to the breast, their mouth is still really, really nice and big. They're able to get a lot of that breast tissue in, and they're able to suck effectively. Now, the reason why I think that moms don't do this is just because it really kind of feels like you're shoving your boob in your baby's face, and that's exactly what you're doing, and that's exactly what your baby needs. So, oh, look at that. Baby has a big mouth. Right on. There he is. Now my baby's eating. Great. So much food's going on into this baby right now. Truth number 2, it's okay to feel assertive when latching your baby and helping your baby to latch. Misconception number 3, babies eat in the cradle position. This is the cradle position, and there's 2 big reasons why this position doesn't work. Number 1, you'll notice that baby is facing straight up, which is normally the way that we hold babies, right? This is what you picture. Oh, I am. Here I go, holding my baby. But what that means is that in order for baby to eat, his head is going to have to turn all the way to the side, right? In order for his mouth to be on my breast, his head has to turn all the way. And nobody ever is going to eat like this. There's no way that a baby is going to have a sustainable latch like that. Now, you can do what is basically a cradle position and just do tummy to tummy. You want to make sure that you're tummy to tummy in all breastfeeding positions, and I'll demonstrate that for you in a second in some other positions. So you can potentially hold baby in a cradle position as long as you make sure that they're facing you, so that way as he's eating, his head is straight on and he's not having to move his neck in weird ways in order to eat. The other reason that cradle position doesn't really work very well in the beginning often is because, like we just talked about, babies need a lot of help latching on. So what that means is that you need good control of baby's head and you need good control of your breast to be able to compress the tissue, support baby's head, and make them meet at the exact right time. So if I'm in this cradle position, I'm able to have pretty good control of my breast with this hand, but then baby's head is in my elbow, right? And it's difficult to really control the baby's head with my elbow. So these are the ways that tend to work better. So there's something called cross cradle, which is really similar. You're just going to put your hands in different spots. So this hand is going to be holding the baby's head, and then I'm just kind of supporting him with my arm back here. And this arm is going to hold the breast. And so then that way I've got good control of baby's head. Got my breast in this hand. When it's time, he can pop right on, right? Good. The other one is called football hold. This one is really popular. It works really well. I try to show it to all my moms from the beginning because it just tends to be the most successful and the easiest. And what you're doing is you're just like this, except you're moving the other way around. So really, it's the same position. It's just a cross on the different breast. Like this, you're holding your baby like a football. You're literally holding your baby like if you were holding a football and you're ready to get a touchdown. I think that's what that's called in football. And you'll probably have either a nursing pillow or just like regular pillows here helping to support baby. You've got your hand on his head, and then your hand on this breast, and then you can pop right on. Truth number 3, babies need to be tummy to tummy, and you need to have good control of their head and your breast. Misconception number 4 is that your baby is regressing. We have something called the golden hour, which is about 1 to 3 hours after baby is born, when they tend to eat really, really well. Well, they'll just pop right on, be really interested, really participatory, just go for it, right? Very normal. That's why we encourage for babies to be put skin to skin with mom as soon as possible after birth, ideally immediately after they're born, and to be kept there as much as possible in those first few hours of life. What's normal for most babies though is after that initial few hours, they tend to be really, really sleepy for the first day or so of life. Then what happens is that throughout that first day, as moms are trying to breastfeed, they're noticing that their baby isn't really doing as well as they did initially. And so then they think, oh no, what's happening? My baby is going backwards. And it's easy to feel frustrated or like you're doing something wrong or like you're messing it up. None of that is happening. Your baby is being a baby. Babies are babies. All it is that babies just tend to be really awake when they're first born, and then they get really sleepy for the first day of life. And that's totally fine. They normally wake up about 24 hours later, and then you have what I like to call a little milk monster, and you'll feel like you have a totally different baby who wants to eat constantly. You know, that's a topic for another video. But if you're feeling like your baby is just not doing as well and they're less than a day old, you can know that's just being normal. Babies are really sleepy. We have lots of ways to feed babies. If your baby only wants to eat for 5-10 minutes, that's great. If we need to do some hand expression and your baby isn't really want to latch, that's fine too. Lots of babies don't latch in the first day of life, and that's fine. Truth number 4, if your baby eats really well in the beginning and then for about a day doesn't do so great, it's okay. It's normal. Misconception number 5, people will care if I choose not to breastfeed. I'm going to tell you a secret. It is way easier to take care of a baby who is bottle feeding than a baby who is breastfeeding. It's true. And what that means for you is that if you are my patient and you tell me, you know, I think I want to bottle feed, I'm going to say, okay, great, I'll get you some bottles. And in my head, I'm going to be saying, sweet, that is awesome. My job is going to be easier because I don't have to try to latch this baby who's never eaten before. Now, I maintain that breast milk is superior nutritionally to all breast milk substitutes. All things being equal, you should try to give your baby breast milk. That being said, all things are not equal. There are lots of reasons not to breastfeed. And if you just don't want to because you just don't feel like it, that is totally fine. You and baby are equally important. You are both equal parts of that relationship. And if breastfeeding doesn't work for you, breastfeeding doesn't work for your baby. Now, sometimes I think what happens is that women don't really want to breastfeed, but they hear it promoted so heavily that they don't really feel like they can just say, I don't want to do this. And so then what happens is they kind of like make little excuses, like try to find a way to get out of it because they don't want to do it, but they don't want to say it. They'll say like, oh, my baby's not latching good. I don't think that my baby's getting enough. Oh, like this is painful. And the thing is, almost every issue you're having with breastfeeding, there's some way to troubleshoot it. So what happens, so sometimes what I worry about is that people are presenting these issues to me, not because they want me to solve the problem and help breastfeeding be better for them, it's because they don't want to breastfeed at all. And as soon as someone says to me, I don't want to breastfeed, we are done breastfeeding. That is it. The word will never come out of my mouth again. Now, I've heard stories of nurses, lactation consultants, doctors, whoever, being, and acting in a way that's made women feel like they were being either pushed to breastfeed or made to feel guilty or shamed for not breastfeeding. Please, if anyone ever makes you feel that way, say to them, I've chosen not to breastfeed. Please respect my decision. I don't want to talk about it any longer. Now, I hope that this is really, really rare because the people that I work with, and that includes nurses, lactation consultants, pediatricians, obstetricians, no one is really that interested in it. We trust our patients to make good decisions for their babies. And I think it's safe to say that if you don't want to breastfeed, most of your medical professionals that you work with are going to be just fine with that. And you are allowed to just say, I don't want to do this. Truth number 5, you don't have to breastfeed if you don't want to. Okay, so those are my top 5 things that I wish all new moms knew before coming to the hospital to have a baby for the first time. Now, of course, the list is so long of other things that are important and other ways that we need to get that you can be educated. I hope this video was helpful to somebody. Share it because I absolutely believe that women are 100% capable of making the best decisions for themselves and for their babies if they just have the education that they need. And that's what I want to help you do. So yeah, let me know how I can help. Me and Liam. Say goodbye, Liam.